All right, let's get one thing straight. When someone storms across your lawn at 7 a.m. screaming about divine compensation and demanding the keys to your government SUV, that's not your average Tuesday in the suburbs. But hey, welcome to my life, where being an undercover federal agent isn't even the weirdest part of the job. You know what I mean? This story, right here, is about Amy Roberts, the self-appointed queen of HOA drama. The woman who turned a quiet neighborhood into the front lines of a psychological war and the single most determined Karen I have ever encountered. Now, let me back up a sec. See, about 6 months before Amy's full meltdown, I'd been sent in on a quiet fraud case. Some financial surveillance flagged Amy for suspicious spending, maybe linked to her mother's old contractor scam, a fraud that had left the feds $200,000 short and a daughter supposedly grieving. My job? Lay low, blend in, close the file in a couple months tops. But the moment Amy came stomping across my lawn, waving a manila folder and yelling to the sky that God sent her a compensation car, well, I knew right then this would be anything but simple. Picture this. Amy, still in her slippers, hair wild, clutching that folder like it's the Ten Commandments, shouts, "That's my divine compensation car. God sent it to replace Mama's stolen life." Her voice echoing off mailbox after mailbox. And let me tell you, I've seen delusional before, but Amy? She believed every word. Like the universe itself had handed her the keys to my SUV that I tried to keep it professional. Coffee in one hand, federal poker face in place. "Ma'am, this is my personal work vehicle. I can't give you my car." But Amy's got her own version of logic. She screams about government vehicles murdering her mother at the intersection, demands blood debt payment. And then, right in front of me and every neighbor peeking out their window, she dials 911 to report a divine compensation vehicle dispute. Yeah, that happened. Now, I'm standing there, barely awake, watching Amy pace like a trial lawyer possessed by the Holy Spirit, telling the dispatcher God had sent this car as cosmic reparations. I spot Tom Riley across the street, ex-federal contractor turned blogger, twitchy hands glued to his phone, filming the chaos for his fraud-exposed blog. And then there's Eleanor Clark, retired from the Department of the Interior, sipping tea in her garden, shooting me that little nod that says, "Yeah, I know your type." 10 minutes later, Officer Ryan Patel rolls up, starched uniform, all about the rules. "Ma'am, you can't commandeer civilian vehicles," he tells Amy, who is now deep in her own theological rabbit hole. She pulls out more paperwork, homemade HOA president credentials, community seizure orders that look like she made them with clip art and a glue stick. And she's not backing down. "God gave me community safety authority," she insists, as if waving those documents hard enough could bend reality. What nobody realizes, except maybe Eleanor, who's quietly running backup for me, is that I'm documenting everything, every word, every forged signature, every wild-eyed threat. Because here's the twist. Amy, for all her aggression, isn't the criminal mastermind we were hunting. The real villain? Her mother, Patricia Evans, the same Patricia who'd staged her own death years ago and was, at that very moment, living it up in Mexico under a new name, running a retirement consulting business with stolen money. Amy had no clue. She'd spent 3 years grieving at an empty grave, building shrines in her living room, convinced her mother was gone. But Amy's not just content with 911 calls and HOA paperwork. No, she comes back the next day with an entire 3-ring binder, laminated emergency vehicle seizure forms, official seals she clearly printed herself. She marches out, tapes a giant notice to my windshield, and declares, "As HOA president, I hereby seize this killer vehicle for the safety of our community." The ceremony, I kid you not, would have impressed Hollywood. Meanwhile, Tom Riley's blog is blowing up. His readers are eating up every twist. The divine compensation angle, the fake funeral, the mystery of the missing death benefits. He's digging through federal databases, finding that Patricia Evans never had a federal death claim, no survivor benefits, nothing. Which means, yep, Amy's entire mission, her 3 years of grief, is based on a lie so big it's almost cruel. Maria Lopez, the HOA treasurer, she's got her own secrets. Turns out, 3.5 years back, Patricia conned her into releasing $15,000 from the HOA's emergency fund, supposedly for medical bills. Maria, racked with guilt, confesses everything to Tom the night before Amy's livestream showdown. The web just keeps getting thicker, right? So now, it's showdown day. Tom's blog has gone viral. 9,000 people are watching live as Amy, dressed in her mother's old funeral dress, marches onto my driveway with a crowbar and enough conviction to start a new religion. The comments are flying. Funeral dress Karen. Federal crime time. You can practically hear the popcorn popping across the country. I step out, flash my federal badge to the world, and reveal the real investigation. Amy, I'm Chief Richard Davis, Department of the Interior. I'm here because financial surveillance flagged your spending and your mother's fraud. Amy's jaw drops. The crowbar clangs to the pavement, and the chat explodes with shock. But Tom's got the real bombshell. He throws Patricia's new Mexican business up on screen, showing 9,000 viewers the smiling face of a woman who'd faked her own death and was now helping retirees start fresh. Maria steps in, confesses the $15,000 theft, and suddenly Amy's universe implodes. The live stream shifts from entertainment to tragedy. People are genuinely worried as Amy, sitting on the driveway, funeral dress trailing in the dirt, processes the full weight of her mother's betrayal. She's arrested on the spot, charged with federal property destruction, impersonating an officer, and creating fraudulent documents. Meanwhile, the internet turns her story into a viral lesson in grief, fraud, and the dangers of weaponizing trust. 18 months later, the house is owned by a new family. Real federal employees this time. Patricia gets extradited from Mexico, her consulting scam shut down. Maria becomes an advocate for HOA transparency. Eleanor's evidence helps create new protections for federal workers, and Tom writes a book about the whole mess. The neighborhood builds a park with Patricia's restitution money, right where Amy used to practice her divine seizure rituals. But here's the thing. Just last week, another HOA president called me, talking about divine authority over someone's car. Makes you wonder, how many Amy's are out there, right now, manipulated by people they trust, ready to blow up their own lives over a story that isn't even true? So what would you do? Would you tell someone their grief is built on a lie, or protect them from the truth? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever seen an HOA power trip this wild? Seriously, share your story. Hit like if you learned something. And if you want to see more insanity like this, you know what to do. You'd think after that mess, federal arrests, viral live streams, a funeral dress meltdown in front of 9,000 rubbernecking strangers, the neighborhood would have gone back to normal. I sure hope so. But you know how it goes. Sometimes the fallout just ripples outward, touching people and places you never expected. Let me paint the picture. The Thompsons moved into Amy's old house maybe 2 months after the dust settled. Marcus, a Coast Guard captain with the posture of a drill instructor, and his wife Jennifer, a NASA engineer who has this quiet confidence, like nothing rattles her, not even the stories the neighbors whispered about the crazy car lady. They bought the place at a foreclosure auction, probably thinking they were getting a steal, and in a way, I guess they did. But every time Marcus parks his official government SUV in that driveway, I see him glance at the curb, maybe half expecting someone to come storming out in a funeral dress, waving a binder of HOA nonsense. Old habits die hard around here. Across the street, Tom Riley has gone from nervous, hand-wringing blogger to local celebrity. His blog exploded, then spun off into a podcast, and now he's giving interviews to news stations about how to spot financial fraud in your own backyard. He still gets jumpy every time someone knocks on his door. Guess that's what happens when your live stream becomes federal evidence and you help take down an international scam. He's finally replaced his old blinds. After Amy, everyone in the neighborhood upgraded their window coverings. Eleanor Clark, for her part, stepped fully into her role as the neighborhood's silent guardian. She leads these little seminars at the community center now. Stuff like protecting yourself and your neighbors from scams. I went to one once, just out of curiosity. She had slides, handouts, and a look on her face that said she'd seen it all, but she still believed in doing good. Sometimes she'll walk past Amy's old house, pausing just long enough to make sure nothing weird is going on, then move along, satisfied her watch is still working. And then there's Maria. She never really forgave herself for what Patricia did with the HOA funds. She started volunteering with a local financial literacy group, teaching people how to say no when friends come with emergencies and paperwork that doesn't add up. She's changed. Her laugh is a little softer now, but when she catches my eye at the mailbox, I see resolve there. Like she's decided her chapter isn't ending in guilt. Now, about Amy. You probably want to know what happened next. After her arrest, after the live stream and the breakdown, after every neighbor in a 3-block radius deleted her from their contacts, she went quiet for a long time. The courts handled her case with what I can only describe as reluctant empathy. Yes, she destroyed federal property, forged documents, and harassed government officials, but she'd also been manipulated and left to grieve a mother who, for all practical purposes, was dead to her. 18 months in a federal facility, 3 years probation, a stack of restitution payments, and, here's the twist, mandatory counseling. Turns out, sometimes you can't punish someone out of pain. Sometimes you have to try to heal them, even if they never really forgive you for it. Patricia Evans? She got extradited from Mexico in a move that felt, honestly, like the world's most anticlimactic season finale. The feds found her hosting a retirement planning seminar called Leaving Your Past Behind. You can't make that up. Inside a gated community with better security than most embassies. She's serving time now, all her clients scrambling for refunds. Her consulting business shut down for good. If there's a lesson there, it's that you can run from a lot of things in life, but eventually your paperwork will catch up with you. The community used Patricia's restitution money to turn the vacant lot, where Amy once held her vehicle seizure ceremonies, into a little park. It's got a playground, benches, and a sign. Truth and Transparency Memorial. I walk past it some mornings with my coffee, watching the kids play where grown adults once nearly came to blows over an SUV that you'd think that'd be the end of it. But every so often, the universe likes to remind you it has a twisted sense of humor. Just last week, I get a phone call. Another neighborhood, another self-declared HOA president, another divine compensation demand over a perfectly ordinary car. The names change, the houses look a little different, but the patterns? Oh, they're always the same. Someone grieving, someone else manipulating, a community caught in the middle, just trying to keep the peace. And I'll be honest, after everything I've seen, after watching Amy's grief turn into a wrecking ball, after Tom's investigation turned a neighborhood sideshow into a national cautionary tale, I can't help but wonder, how many more Amy's are out there? How many folks are being led down some wild path by the people they trust most, only to find the ground ripped out from under them? Makes you look at your neighbors a little differently, makes you hug your family a little tighter, or maybe, for some folks, not at all. You want my advice? If you ever catch yourself on the wrong end of a divine authority speech, or see a neighbor getting obsessed with HOA bylaws and conspiracies, ask questions. Document everything. And if the story starts to sound too wild to be true, well, maybe it is. So, let me ask you, what would you have done if you were in my shoes? Would you have blown the whistle sooner? Would you have let Amy live with her comforting lie, or torn it all down to save her from something even worse? There's no easy answer. That's the thing about justice. Sometimes it's just as messy as the people chasing it. Drop a comment below, share your wildest HOA story, or just tell me where you're watching from. And if you ever find yourself facing down a Karen in a funeral dress waving a crowbar, remember, you're not alone, and you just might be living through the next viral lesson on grief, justice, and trust gone sideways. Thanks for sticking around. Show some love with a like. Hit subscribe if you want more stories that sound too crazy to be true. And remember, sometimes the truth really is stranger than fiction.